Hey, what is going on, guys? It's DK. Back at you with another video here, bringing the Monday Night Football Showdown slate between the Jets and the Patriots. Before I get into the video, if you guys are new to the channel, my name is DK. I make daily videos breaking out NBA, NFL, PGA, and esports daily fantasy sports slates. Before we get into the video, I want to thank you guys again for all support. It is greatly, greatly appreciated on the videos, the live streams, as well as on Twitter. The easiest way to support me, guys, since all the content is free, is leave a like button on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you know when I upload videos, you know when I go live. I will be live streaming for this one, as ugly as a slate as it is. I will be live 30 minutes before lock to go over everything. Also, if you guys cannot watch my YouTube videos, I do upload an Apple Podcast. The link is in the description below. It's just the DK DFS show. But with that out of the way, let's jump into the video. So before we talk about players and the prices for this, again, ugly slate, let's look back in the lineup here from Thursday. So Thursday was another kind of headache slate. There was a ton of value. We didn't really know how the 49ers were going to utilize their receivers. So we talked about the four basically mid-price guys. And I guessed wrong there, right? I knew Kevin White was not going to be popular. And he was a guy I was kind of banking on the talent. And, we didn't really know who was going to get a majority of snaps, and Kevin White barely played. It was the other three guys, mostly Richie James, who went off, him, Kirkcraft, and then, Taylor's role didn't really change out of the slot. But yeah, the rest of my lineup was, I thought, the four guys in the middle there, I thought were going to be, well, I knew Devontae and Aaron Rodgers were going to be popular, but I thought Aaron Jones and Mullins would both be in the 60 to 70% ownership. They were both lower owned than I thought. So I want Ross Dwelly and the captain kind of differentiate himself. I kind of told you guys, though, I was playing it really risky on this slate. I told you guys the safe way to go was to play the four guys in the middle and probably Devontae at captain. Right? That's what we went over the live stream for like a cash game build. But yeah, I wanted to get a little bit different because I thought the ownership would be a little bit higher in some of those guys. It wasn't. And yeah, that's really the look back there for Thursday's for my lineup on Thursday's show on slate. So this one, we do have $1 million up top, another million maker. But man, there's a ton to talk about. There is a lot of kind of injury news up in the air, and it's just projected to be a really ugly game. Could be, in my opinion, probably the ugliest showdown slate we've ever had. But yeah, let's take a look at the Vegas numbers here. It's a 41 over/under. The Patriots are currently 10-point favorites. So let's take a look at the snap counts here for both these teams in the last game and kind of go over it. Again, we do have some stuff up in the air, injury-wise, which we'll talk about. But so the Patriots, they kind of had a three-headed monster here. Rex Burkhead played 49% of the snaps. James White played 48%. Damien Harris played 31% of the snaps. Normally how it goes is, Harris is kind of their first and second down back, where Burkhead and White will get some carries here and there, but they're more out there for the receiving down work. And we do, again, have news that, let's go to New England, and where is he at? SONY MICHEL is at 2.2K. There's a chance he returns in this game, right? And he's practicing. So could be another back added to this rotation. Yeah, that's not going to be fun to try to break down. Wide receiver situation, we still do have Edelman out. We still do have Harry out. So I think we can kind of expect what we got last game, which was Bird and Myers basically playing the entire game, and Gunnar Olszewski, I'll just call him Gunnar because I'm not going to be able to pronounce that last name, are going to be the three receivers I think that do play most of the game. So this is, I think, pretty clear here, right? It'll be Bird, it'll be Myers again, and it'll be Gunnar as the number 3 wide receiver. Tight end situation for New England, well, Asiasi is out, and Izzo and Keene are both currently questionable. So if both those guys are out, the Patriots might not have a tight end available to play, unless they call someone up from the practice squad, which I guess they could. But yeah, so that'll be obviously something to monitor. Either way, I mean, Patriots they haven't really been utilizing their tight ends this year, but that is obviously something to still look at. A running back situation for the Jets, again, kind of ugly here. LaMichael Perine, the rookie, did play 49% of the snaps. I think he does, continue to kind of go up in snap counts. I'm guessing because the Jets aren't really playing for a lot, and since I would assume they want to give the rookie some more touches. Frank Gore is still getting carries here. He played basically 40% of the snaps, and the former Lion Ty Johnson picked up 11% of the snaps. So, there's going to be 3 running backs that do get touches here for the Jets. Wide receiver situation for the Jets. Well, last game, it was the rookie MIMS playing 96% of the snaps, Barrios 84%, and Jeff Smith 84%. But we do have Crowder looking like he's going to be back, as well as Perriman as well. So if both those guys are back, if Crowder's back, I'm off Barrios. Because Crowder plays the slot, Barrios is a slot receiver. If Crowder's playing, Barrios will barely play. And if Perriman is back, which it looks like he is, then I think Jeff Smith probably goes down to playing very little. I think the wide receiver situation for the Jets will probably be MIMS, Crowder, and Perriman. Again, that's assuming Crowder and Perriman are in. I think we do already have confirmation that Perriman's in. Crowder is still hasn't been confirmed yet. And then tight end situation for the Jets. Big disappointment so far this year. A lot of hype on him was Chris Herndon. Played 70% of the snaps. Ryan Griffin, their backup, played 28%. So, all right, I'll do my best to try to break this down for you guys. Like I said, it is really ugly, but it's going to be an interesting slate because there's no real clear plays. I think obviously both quarterbacks and Crowder, if he plays, are probably the safe options. But I think there's going to be a lot of different ways you can go. There's a lot of value, and I think you can leave salary on the table to differentiate yourself to try to get unique. So let's start at quarterback at the top at Cam Newton. Is listed as 13.2K in the flex position. Kind of a lot, right? Cam Newton has not been playing great. The positive with Cam Newton is he's doing more on the ground, right? Last game, he had 54 yards on the ground and a touchdown. The downside is, the Patriots, if they're playing from ahead, they are a run-first team. They are going to pound the rock. And this is a game that the Patriots are projected, 10-point favorites, right? So they probably are going to be playing from ahead. So, yes, Cam Newton, I think, is going to be really popular because there's not a lot to spend up for. I don't think he's a must-play. He's it's an interesting fade. I think for cash games, you do probably play him. I think you probably play Flacco, too, who's filling in now with Darnold doubtful. But yeah, Cam Newton, I think, is a little bit pricey. But with so little to pay up for on the slate, he's going to be popular. Again, positives are he's rushing a lot more. The matchup's decent here too. So, yeah, probably do play Cam for cash. And I think he is one of the safest options on this slate. Jamison Crowder, if he does play, which it's looking like he is, I think is also one of the safest options on the slate. 11.2, sure, that is a lot. But I would feel comfortable paying up for him just because of the targets and the games he's played, 13, 10, 10, and 13 targets. Now, sure, right, it's going to be Flacco most likely playing quarterback. So, most of those games, I think 3 of the 4 games were with Darnold. But I think that Miami game was with Flacco, if I'm not mistaken, where he had 13 targets. It was. So, both quarterbacks have shown that they want to get the ball to Jamison Crowder. I think he is again, one of the safest options of slate if he does play, and I assume he will just because of the target share. And then, again, Darnold doubtful, not looking like he's going to go. So, Joe Flacco's at 9-4. Am I excited to play Joe Flacco on the slate? Absolutely not. But he's a quarterback. He's 9.4K. So, the matchup's not good here. The Jets are not projected to score a lot of points, but there's not a lot you're going to feel comfortable with this. There isn't. So, as ugly as it sounds, I think for cash games, you play both quarterbacks and you play Jamison Crowder because the running back situation for both teams is a headache, right? We have potentially 4 running backs for the Patriots. We have 3 running backs for the Jets. There's no clear workhorse. So that's how I go cash games. It's Newton, Crowder, Sam Darnold, 4.9 carry rating. That's where I would go. But let's talk about the rest of the players on this slate. So Damien Harris is at 10.2K. He had a good game last game. Won for over 100 yards and 16 carries, but he has no involvement in the passing game. His status is also up in the air right now. It's currently listed as questionable with an ankle injury. Now, looking like he'll be good to go, but we'll see. Again, what I mentioned was SONY MICHEL. There's a decent chance he's back. If SONY MICHEL is back and is going to play, I think Damien Harris at this price point would be the easiest fade of the slate. Easiest fade. 4 running backs. Sony Michel will probably get a lot of early down work. I don't know what Damien Harris's role will be. Now, we never know, right? It's Belichick. Who knows? Maybe he just sticks with Damien Harris. But at this price point, I don't feel comfortable paying this for him. And again, especially if Sony Michel is playing too, it's just too expensive because he's a guy that he has no involvement in the passing game, so he has to get it done on the ground. And if there's going to be 4 running backs, how can you feel comfortable with that? So it's just a contrarian play. There's no way, personally for me, for my one lineup, that I'm getting a Damien Harris at that price point. Now, things could change a little bit, right? If Sony Michel is not available to play, then I could see at least an argument to make for Damien Harris because this is again the Patriots are projected to be playing from ahead, and maybe he gets 15 carries on the ground, right? So there could be an argument, but still, I think he's just overpriced. Jacoby Myers is at $9K. So again, we have no Edelman, we have no N'Keal Harry. Jacoby Myers was the de facto #1 wide receiver the last game. He played all right? 6 catches on 10 targets. 9K though. I wish he would. I wish he was a little bit cheaper. Now, I do think he's the most talented wide receiver of this bunch. So yeah, he's in play, but I think he's just more of a contrarian option right now at that price point. Patriots defense 7.4K. This is the exact same situation as we had with the Buccaneers, right? I think the Bucs D was 7-2 or 7-4 against the Giants, and surprisingly, they were 40% owned. Talked about in the videos, I'm not playing the Bucs D. That was one of the biggest surprises for me in ownership so far in these showdown sites was the Bucs D was 40% owned. If the Patriots D is going to be anywhere close to that, if they're going to get anywhere close to 40% owned, I have absolutely no interest for single entry, right? It's just at this price, the defense they really need a defensive score to pay off the salary. Now, I could see it happening in this game, right? The Jets are terrible. But if they're going to get close to 40% owned, Patriots defense, I'm just not going there, right? So if you're making a ton of lineups, then obviously, yes, you can consider the Patriots. I think they will be somewhat popular. And if I think they're going to get close to what the Buccaneers defense was that last slate, then there's just no way I'm going to the Patriots defense at that price. Damiere Byrd's at 6'8". I think he's a fine option. He's a guy that's going to play majority of the game. Has been a little bit more up and down. But the good thing is, again, we know he will play basically the entire game. I think he did play, 100% of the snaps? Yeah, 100% of the snaps the last game. So he'll be out there the whole game. I do think Myers is probably a little bit more talented, but you're also going to get a $2K discount to Byrd. So I think Byrd in the mid-range is an okay option, right? I'm probably not going to prioritize him. I told you guys the guys that I'm prioritizing. It's the 2 quarterbacks and Crowder. But yeah, Byrd, if you landed him, is fine. James White at 6'4", seems okay, but this is a game that the Patriots are projected to be playing from ahead, so not as excited about White. White's a guy I want to look to if they're playing from behind. He's probably not going to get a ton of carries. He had 2 carries last game. Again, he's more out there for his receiving down work. At this price, again, it feels a little bit pricey, and especially if Sony Michel plays too. That's 4 running backs in the mix for the Patriots, so I'm just not overly excited about the price. I think he's an okay option because he's a guy that, probably will get targeted, but by how much, right? If the Patriots fall behind, if you think the Jets may be taking an early lead in this one, then I would like White more, right? Because he's just a guy that's going to be utilized more as their third down back, their passing down back. Other options. So, Michael Perrine's at 5'8" for the Jets. He did get out-snapped Frank Gore, finally. Played 49% of the snaps to Frank Gore's 39%. I think the snaps probably still go up for him since he's a rookie. And again, the Jets have nothing to play for. Didn't do a whole lot last game. 8 carries for 27 yards, 2 catches and 2 targets. But that game got out of hand early against the Chiefs. So they kind of had to force to air it out. I think it's a decent price point for him. And I guess he's probably the running back. I don't know if I feel the most comfortable with, but there's a couple other cheaper guys that I think are in consideration. Again, especially if Sony Michel plays, I think he looks really good. We'll talk about him in a sec. So yeah, Perrine at 5'8" is a guy that I think the snaps probably do go up for him. I think he is a guy that has shown he's a decent pass catching back right the last few games. If you look at his stats, he does have 3 and 2 targets and 2 and 2 catches. Is not bad for a guy at that price point. Again, N'Keal Harry out. Berrios at 5'4". This is strictly dependent on Jamison Crowder news. If Jamison Crowder is out, I love Berrios at this price. I've talked about it the last slate. He was my favorite Jets value. He had 8 catches and 11 targets for 11 fantasy points the last game. So the Jets, they love going to their slot receivers. If Crowder's out, Berrios is my favorite play at 5'4". If Crowder plays, I'm not going to Berrios. Some people will still play Berrios, but he will barely play if Crowder is available and good to go. Now, DENZEL MIMS at 5K, I think looks decent, and I think his role won't change a whole lot. Right? I think it'll be Berrios and Jeff Smith that kind of lose a lot of the snaps, but there's no guarantee to that. That's just kind of my best guess. But yeah, I think MIMS still does get a good amount of work here, 5K. The first game against Buffalo looked pretty decent at 4 catches, 7 targets. Last game against Kansas City had a couple catches early and then kind of disappeared, but he still was out there basically the entire game. So yeah, I think MIMS is a perfectly fine play. Definitely MIMS, I should say, is someone that I'm considering. Rex Burkhead at 4'6". And I guess he's kind of like a poor man's James White. Like, he'll probably get a few more carries on the ground, but not as much receiving down work. Yeah, you can consider him, but yeah, I'm not super excited about it. Perriman at 4'2". So looking like, again, he's good to go, clear the concussion protocol. I think he's an okay play here. I think he will play, majority of snaps at wide receiver. 4.2K does seem a little bit underpriced. So I have interest in Perriman as a cheaper play at that price point. The Jets D at 4K. So for me, I would rather play the Jets D than the Patriots D if I was going to play defense. And this is a slate. You definitely can consider them. It's a 41 over/under. It's going to be an ugly game. So yeah, Jets D are at least in consideration here for the price. It's just the reason I'm not overly excited about the Patriots defense is just the price point, right? At 7.4, they need like a shutout or they need a defensive touchdown, which is pretty rare. So that's why I'm not overly excited about the Patriots defense. The kickers, whoever ends up playing here, are both viable here. 3-4 and 3-8. Kickers have a floor about 5 or so fantasy points, upside about 15. They're both okay options. Frank Gore at 2.8 doesn't really have any involvement in the pass game, but 11, and 10 carries are still giving him some carries. At this price, doesn't need a lot to pay off a salary. So, yeah, you can consider Grandpa Frank Gore. Now, SONY MICHEL's again at 2.2. This is a key piece of news. He returned to practice, and he might be eligible to return for this game. Now, if he is, I would assume he does probably get more work on the ground than DAMIEN, but that's just a guess. So at this price point, if he plays, I think he's a decent option here. So hopefully we get some sort of clarity on the Patriots running back situation before lock, but I don't think we will. Now, we will get the news that if Michel's going to be active or not. So if he is active, I think he does look like a pretty decent play there at 2.2. Chris Herndon's at 1.6, and he's been a disappointment. Now, he's still playing majority of the game. He's not really getting targeted a ton. At this price, though, again, 1.6, all you really need is a couple catches for him. So, yeah, you can throw him in the player pool for sure. Izzo's at 1.4. Patriots tight end did have 2 catches and 3 targets last game, but he's currently assessed questionable. Dalton Keene, their backup, also questionable, and then Asiasi is out. So you got to keep an eye on this. Whoever does end up starting, if Izzo plays, he will be the starting tight end. Again, last game he played 74% of the snaps. So, yeah, sure, you can throw him in the player pool. I'm going to say that about a lot of guys. Jeff Smith, if Perriman was not available, he would be one of the top value plays at 1K. But with Perriman back, I think that's going to hurt Jeff Smith. So I'm just a little bit worried about his role. Now, will his snaps go down to like 0? No. So maybe the Jets just kind of give everyone like an even split and everyone plays like 50 to 60% snaps. You never know. I guess that's always possible. And if that's the case, then Jeff Smith would look better. But my guess is it's going to be Perriman, Crowder, and MIMS as the guys. I would say Jeff Smith would probably be the number 4 receiver. So how much work does he get? A little bit more up in the air. But yeah, at that price, again, doesn't need a lot to pay off a salary. Now, Gunner's at $600. He didn't have a catch last game, but he played what, 60% of the snaps? 65%? So I assume that's going to continue, right? Nothing's really changed the Patriots and their wide receivers. I think he does look like a pretty decent option at that price point. Let's see. Zuber was the guy, I believe, on the practice squad. He played 8% of the snaps. And he played a few, 9% of the snaps. So not overly excited about that if he's only going to play a few snaps. Ty Johnson's at $200. He's the number 3 back for the Jets. He's played a little bit. He's shown he's a decent pass-catching back, but not getting a ton of work. Again, at $200, again, you can throw him in the player pool. Like I said, with a lot of guys. And I think that really wraps up. Yeah, Asiasi again on the IR. Isaiah Ford, the guy from the Dolphins, is not available yet. So that's why I don't think a whole lot is going to change there for the Patriots and their wide receiver situations. So kind of did my best there to break it down for you guys. Like I said, there's a lot of cheaper guys that are in play, but trying to differentiate which ones are the really good plays is a little bit tough on this one, on this slate at least. I do think, again, for cash games, you play both quarterbacks and you play Jamison Crowder. So, and that's probably where I would go for safety. Is one of those 3 guys. Plug them in the captain spot. For GPPs, it's about 75% of the time either a running back or wide receiver is in the captain spot. So, if you want to shoot for upside, probably Crowder is the safest guy. But, there are other options, right? Myers, I think, is the number 1 wide receiver for New England. You can consider Bird, who plays the entire game. You can look to those other Jets receivers like Perriman or MIMS, right? They're both at reasonable enough prices. Or you could try to take a shot in the running back situation for both teams, but it's kind of a headache. Now, again, if Michel plays, I think he looks like a pretty decent option. If he misses, that is a slight boost to everyone else on New England. But yeah, I think that's really going to do it for the video today, guys. So if you have been enjoying the content so far, I'd really appreciate it. Click the like button on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you know when I upload videos and when I go live. Again, I will be live streaming 30 minutes before lock on my YouTube channel, going over everything, answering all your guys' questions. So make sure to check the live stream, guys. It's very, very important. I'll kind of hint where I'm going as well. I always do in the live streams. But yeah, thanks again. Hope you guys all have a good day, and I will see you all tomorrow in the live stream.